Hello. Wow, looks like the audio wasn't even on. I was unmuted, but the connection wasn't even open. All right, I guess we're gonna have to restart this a little bit. Let me know if y'all can hear me. All right, perfect. So let me go back. I'm gonna do a quick run through on what I was talking about. So as far as what I'm gonna be watching today, we're looking at ES to first off, uh, bounce off the supply. Our demand. We're looking at 3914 for the main bounce. All of this to see significant buyers and momentum gain. This sort of wedge is what we're seeing pre-market. If we can fill below that today, then I'm gonna expect lower lows. As far as buyers go, watch this 3945. There's sellers in that area. So if we do push above it, I know that there's gonna be significance in buyers. Somebody says no sound. All right. Good morning, Kibas. So, okay, there we go. So we have our buyers at, or we want to see our buyers fill above this 3945. If we can get there, then we're going to see a continuation all the way up to these three levels, including this wedge resistance where I really want to see activity in sellers at. As far as us hitting higher above that, this 3975 wholesale spot is going to be a little bit of a low chance of us hitting today. We're going to need some really strong buyers in order to get up there. And as I wasn't able to say this morning because I was muted. Um, what we went through this morning that caused a sell-off is the 30-year 4% or 30-year yields top 4% for the first time since November. So I was talking about how back in November we ended up getting that momentum gain. Back here we ended up getting that strong buyers that pushed us up to a higher high following volatility. And then we see a drop to December and then a continuation. Sort of, I want to see a relief bounce somewhere between these coming few days or weeks, as we are currently in a downtrend with no higher highs shown, without the exception of this candle. So I'm really looking for us to have a relief bounce within the week and break above this wedge, this bearish trend that we're currently forming. So this supply or demand should give us that chance to see a relief bounce. So that's what I was talking about when it came to ES. As far as intraday levels, like I mentioned, this supply is where I want to see a bounce. We hit a lower low before here, then we know that there's sellers involved, there's bearish action, we'll continue lower. Anything between this range here, I'm expecting volatility. I'm probably not going to take anything between there unless we see rejects and rebounds. And then we're looking at money above 3945, so strength above that shows me that there's strength involved, and that buyers want a higher high. If we can get towards this main spot that I really want to see reject, is 3963. That's gonna be my main goal. But the second main goal will probably be this wedge resistance. This might happen later in the day around 2 to 3 p.m. We're probably gonna get to it. But as of right now, in the morning, I don't expect volume to push us that high. We'll probably reject towards over here to over these two levels below it. Yeah, so that's about it on our ES play. As far as SPX goes, this we're probably gonna gap down. It's expected. I want to see 3906 and 3893 demand for major buyers. This is where I will personally be entering calls and or watch the market for momentum gain and end up stepping in. So yeah, as far as rejection goes, I'm gonna watch 3997, 3933. I want to see what we do in that level key spot that I saw on the daily. I want to see if this is a level of interest. As far as 3948, we can use that from a supply or demand that we've currently had to later, once we gap down, fill that gap, reject, and then sell off. So this whole spot here, in fact, let me mark it, is going to be a key spot to fill, because once we do, this is where I want to see us reject, as if we gap down, we're probably going to build up that strength, to push up and then reject at that gap fill. So keep that number on mind. Um, there should be audio should be working now. So let's move on to the individuals. Luckily, we didn't really get into that before this mistake happened. All right, let's go on to daily frame. Again, a lower low hit on Apple yesterday. So we have what looks to be, I'm gonna remove the drawings. We have a lot of room to go. Not much I'm seeing as far as bounces goes. They've gapped down to 3143. I want to see maybe an interest in buyers around this price. Um, just looking back at history, we see lots of volatility. We see this whole range of just chop, and overall, it's been like a downtrend chop, squeezed, broke out. Um, looks like we have this spot that has buyers, but I want to see if in the past we've used that spot as buyers to build up confidence in this trade. If we do end up playing calls, something like that. We can see maybe a bounce on that spot. It's a little riskier, but we do know that there's buyers involved in that whole zone, just based off of the candle wicks. So that's about it. As far as Apple goes, I'm gonna go to the hourly. Gonna look at if there's any good setups there, and then see if there's possible rejection spot. Not bad. We got a small wedge resistance using the pre-market high of yesterday as a resistance, as well as the high of the previous day. Um, I want to look for intra week rather than, I mean, hourly rather than intraday for supply or demand. I believe the risk will be a little more interesting. Looks like that spot has more value there for us. And then we're gonna move it back to see if there's evidence there. Yep, we got our rebound there, a rejection, and we got our rebounds there. Okay, so this is not a bad zone to watch. We can definitely use that as an idea of the market could head down here, and then once the market heads down here, expect for some momentum gain and the SPY, as it is the top shareholder of the index or the ETF. So we can bounce around there, see some buyers step in on SPY. So this will be a good spot to watch. As far as taking a position, really only if we can get above this trend, I'd consider it, but there's still a lot of risk involved in just this one confirmation of resistance. It all depends on how the market is positioned during the time of breakout. But we'll move on. We'll look at another stock. We'll look at Costco, which has earnings post hours. Not gonna take anything. I'm gonna watch for this retracement as a bounce. Other than that, nothing that I want to trade today, especially with earnings tomorrow or I think after hours. We got Nvidia. Nvidia's been tanking, as well as I believe Tesla, which we'll go over next. Nvidia, I'm gonna let it continue. I want to buy down here 206. I'm probably not gonna take anything intra. To me, chip sector is a little risky. We'll look at AMD though. AMD had lots of potential recently, especially in their supplies. So I definitely want to watch for investors there. So let's go on to Tesla. Tesla, lower low this morning off this range that we've experienced. Um, as far as potential goes, we got this whole area of buyers right here, which could be a spot for investors to try and buy up. Let me see right around here. Let's look at that right there. Now, it may touch pre-market, so it's gonna be a little difficult to see. I'm going off this range, this spot specifically, the low of this, for this reason of we got our first off rejection rebounds there, we got a rejection here, we got a rejection here, we got a rebound here. So if we do end up hitting the low, the chances of us bouncing again could be high. But we had Tesla day yesterday, so this gap down could have been significant. I personally didn't see the news relating to that Tesla day, but if it is bearish news that causes investors to want to sell, then we'll look at how it reacts today. If we fall below it, we use it as resistance. However, that spot is treated, we'll look into it. Overall, it should affect the market, but we'll see. Meta relative strength for the past 2 days at open. Should we see an expectation of that same thing to happen today? Um, it's possible. It looks like we're using that support resistance as a support. If we open up relatively bearish today, there's a good chance we're going to sell lower. Probably buyers are going to be seen around this spot. But if we break below, then we're going to be very bearish trying to fill the ER gap. So I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to leave it how it is and move on. Amazon broke this little trend, bear flag, and then looks like it broke demand. As far as buyers go, we're at this low. Nothing else really. You got buyers down here, 89. I'm probably not going to take anything on Amazon. Just looks like so far from just reviewing these stocks, we can already see that there's a lot of interest in sellers compared to buyers. We are hitting lower lows, so that's expected. But what we're really trying to go for is where is it that buyers are going to say, okay, where am I going to enter here? Is this where we bounce the market? Is this where we experience our relief bounce? Because there's going to be itchy fingers waiting for that buy low, sell high, you know? So that's something that we really want to watch for, especially for ES, and then market effect on it. So look at the supply for AMD. This is what I mean when I say AMD has been very interesting lately, especially in this range. Looks like we're ready to squeeze below, but we've had this continuation in range. Sellers selling up here, buyers buying down here. The trend was buying low, lower high, lower high. Now it looks like we're experiencing a lower low pre-market. Still haven't broken that day's low, but if we do open bearish, chances are we are going to see a new low. I'd probably buy up around this retracement for calls. Although the risk may be high because we have tested it twice already. I do want to see though, if we can get back down to here, we bounce, show momentum gain, then I'll probably play some calls, scalp or swing towards that 80 spot. The retracement is really where I wanted to buy puts at yesterday, but we didn't end up achieving that, so I didn't take anything there. So yeah, I'll just leave it here. We have our idea. If we get up higher, I'll probably short around this retracement. If we get up down here, we'll look for calls. But there's no exact setup up in this. All right, so Netflix new low. Still not gonna grab anything for this. I don't really like Netflix's price action, especially for when we're selling off really harshly. I'm gonna move on from there. HD new low after breaking. Looks like we continued. Pre-market. What are we looking at? Still no really big levels. I'll probably have this one in mind. For our next bounce. Still relatively bearish after breaking that with earnings. And let's move on. Still nothing for Microsoft again. Microsoft, really low momentum, but overall still selling off. And then our rising BA. BA's gained strength. Honestly, not surprised that it hasn't gapped down as hard as the other stocks. BA is a stock that follows SPY very closely. In fact, sometimes it moves first than SPY. So it'll be interesting to watch how we do play out here. I'm going to keep the support on watch. I'm not going to touch anything else. This 197 call spot, though, that was a big bounce. We're having a relief bounce from this rising wedge breakout. So that's good to know, because if we do end up approaching somewhat like someplace like this where we see sellers, we can short down. We'll probably hit a lower low. Um, or if buyers are still going to be active and they stay above this spot, then we can try and squeeze below once we break out, short it to these price targets below. But yeah, I'll keep this on watch and we'll move on. Google still using that 91 spot as a resistance, especially pre-market. We know that this whole spot is a sell spot intra-week. We got this in mind as a sell spot. So if we break above it today, then expect now this spot to be a sell spot. So we can maybe grab some scalps. If we look at momentum loss intraday at this high, then we can short, try to take some profits within this trend. So our range of profit possibilities around, let's see, looking like a 1%, $1 move. Depends on the delta. You can probably make a good return on this. Somebody said your sound is only going through the left speaker. Not sure why. That is kind of weird. I know that is kind of weird. Um, I realized that too for my latest video that I posted. I'll try to figure it out. I don't know what really is wrong with that, but we'll see. Walmart is at my demand. I want to see buyers step in here. We did hit a lower low, so that was what I was waiting on. It looks like sellers were more stronger. So now what I want to see is a continuation towards this 138, and then I want to buy some calls, write it up, and see if there's still interest in this price. Overall, the setup was on our newsletter. We're still waiting on it to go active for us to take trades upon it, but right now it's just patience. PayPal still in this range. We've still seen buyers really want this spot. As you guys know, the spot for PayPal, big buy spot. But we've also had quite a lot of sellers up here too. So there's gonna be really tough action till we start seeing big volume come in. Then we're gonna break out of this range, either up or down. All depends on buyers or sellers. I personally want to see it break up, but as we know, it all depends on the trend of the market. If we end up hitting lower lows on ES, then chances are we are going to break below on this setup. This is also sort of having a still stuck in that trend of bearish trend, but there's really nothing here. We'll probably move on towards Roku, where we still see a bounce at 61, and then we'll go to Crowd, where Crowd is rejecting 122.75, and then AMAT. AMAT has my biggest interest in terms of sellers. As we approach down here, I want to see what is going to happen with AMAT, whether they are going to bounce or if we're going to break that rising wedge. But it does look like we are selling off here yesterday at this high where there's interest in sellers. So that's interesting. If we get up there, we can see another sell-off. There's not a lot of good setups this morning. We're looking at a lot of bearish action. So to end this pre-market live here, which a lot of it was on mute, sadly, we'll look into seeing this ES overall try to hit a lower low. If we do a pre-market, then that shows that we're selling off towards this spot where we're expecting buyers to step in, mainly around that 3914. If buyers are above this whole, if we get a candle above this 3945, then I know that there's going to be a experience in buyers all the way up to this spot. As far as anything between this, it's a range. I probably won't take anything, but this 3939 may be a level of resistance like it has been here, or a rebound, especially an area where basically we're going to see some rest in buyers and sellers, sort of acting as a median. So we can definitely see a, if we do see strength where we like test it up here and then we reject with a wick and then we rebound here, then I know that this could be an area of buyers loading in and then us step in higher, which is a little risky because we know that we're going to have to watch for closer areas for rejects, as buyers did load in here, but did they continue up here? So if they didn't, then they know that they're going to try to sell. They're going to take their profits, ultimately getting us either a lower low, which is below this 3939, or continuation up. So that's about it for this pre-market live. I hope you guys kill it today. Remember, trade smart, trade safe. And if you did make gains yesterday, especially, I know we all banked yesterday with us hitting this high and playing puts 3975 and hitting this low playing calls, where a lot of the members did bank. Just make sure not to oversize and or um over trade, because there's going to be a lot of emotions into play today, in fear of losing the gains that you made, and in fear and in greed of hoping to make more. So just don't oversize. In fact, probably size less than you did yesterday, and just trade smart, trade safe, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.